Good day, children. Glad to meet you all in this video session. Before we get going with the lesson, let me talk to you about some happenings in and around our country. During this pandemic situation, there are many people who are getting depressed and they start feeling lonely. So to avoid all that and to keep yourself away from this depression, I want you all to keep yourself engaged in doing some kind of work at home and keep engaging yourself in that manner. Good. Today we are going to see a lesson from your Honeycomb textbook. It is 3 questions written by Leo Tolstoy, part 2. We saw the part 1 in the previous video session. In case you have any doubts, please refer to the previous video of this lesson. That is the part 1 of this lesson. Let's get started and know more about the lesson. Before we move ahead, let's quickly recap the story. This story is about a king who wants to find the answers to what he considers the 3 most important questions of life. The questions were: what is the right time to begin something? Which people should he listen to? The most important thing for him to do. But the king was not satisfied with the answers of the wise men who came to him. So he went to a hermit for seeking the answers. Now let's move ahead with the story to know more about the happenings. The king turned around and saw a bearded man running towards them. His hands were pressed against his stomach, from which blood was flowing. When he reached the king, he fainted and fell to the ground. The king and the hermit removed the man's clothing and found a large wound in his stomach. The king washed and covered it with his handkerchief, but the blood would not stop flowing. The king redressed the wound until at last the bleeding stopped. Fainted, it means lost consciousness, to lose one's consciousness. Redressed, which means dressed again. Saw a bearded man approaching towards them. The man was injured and was heavily bleeding, and as he reached the king, he felt unconscious on the ground. Both the hermit and the king removed his clothes, and they saw a deep wound in his stomach. The king washed his wound, but the blood kept flowing. Finally, the king redressed the wound which stopped the blood flow. The man felt better and asked for something to drink. The king brought fresh water and gave it to him. By this time, the sun had set and the air was cool. The king, with the hermit's help, carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. The man closed his eyes and lay quiet. The king, tired by his walk and the work he had done, lay down on the floor and slept through the night. When he awoke, it was several minutes before he could remember where he was or who the strange bearded man lying on the bed was. The man was feeling better, but he was thirsty. So the king brought him fresh water, and by this time it was cold and dark outside. They carried the injured man inside the hut and laid him to rest. Because of the long walk and the hard labor, the king was so tired and he slept on the floor throughout the night. When he woke up, it took him some time to think and gather the memories of the previous night. "Forgive me," said the bearded man in a weak voice. When he saw that the king was awake, "I do not know you and have nothing to forgive you for," said the king. "You do not know me, but I know you. I am that enemy of yours who swore revenge on you, because you put my brother to death and seized my property. I knew you had gone alone to see that hermit, and I made up my mind to kill you on your way home. But the day passed, and you did not return. So I left my hiding place, and I came upon your bodyguard, who recognized me and wounded me. I escaped from him, but I should have died if you had not dressed my wounds. I wished to kill you, and you have saved my life. Now, if I live, I will serve you as your most faithful servant, and will order my sons to do the same. Forgive me." It means took by force. Faithful, which means loyal and true. To take revenge on him because the king had killed his brother. To take revenge on him because the king had killed his brother and seized his property. The man also revealed that he also knew the plans of the king to visit the hermit and had planned to kill the king on his way back home. He also told the king that he was hiding in a place but was recognized by the bodyguard of the king and got injured. He fled from him and reached the hermit's hut and was helped by the king. He wished to kill the king, but the king saved his life. He asked for the forgiveness of the king and assured him to serve him as his loyal servant. And he would also order his sons to do the same. The king was very happy to have made peace with his enemy so easily and to have won him over as a friend. He not only forgave him but said he would send his servants and his own doctor to look after him, and he promised to give back the man his property. Leaving the wounded man, the king went out of the hut and looked round for the hermit. Before going away, he wished once more to get answers to his questions. The hermit was on his knees sowing seeds in the beds that had been dug the day before. The king went up to the hermit and said, "For the last time, I beg you to answer my questions, wise man." Peace with his enemy so easily, the king was very happy. He forgave the bearded man. The king promised him to return the property and assured him to give him the service of his personal doctor till he gets healthy. The king left the wounded man and went in search of the hermit. The hermit was now sowing the seeds. Before leaving back to his palace, the king wanted to get the answer to his 3 questions. So the king again asked the hermit with humbleness, "Answer my 3 questions." "You have already been answered," said the hermit, still bending down to the ground and looking up at the king as he stood before him. "How have I been answered? What do you mean?" "Do you not see?" replied the hermit. "If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday and had not dug these beds for me, you would have gone away. Then that man would have attacked you, and you would have wished you had stayed with me. So, the most important time was when you were digging the beds, and I was the most important man, and to do me good was your most important business. Afterwards, when the man ran to us, the most important time was when you were caring for him. The hermit told the king that he had got his answers. The king was surprised to hear this. He asked to himself, "How has he been answered?" The hermit started explaining, and he said, "If the king had not pitied his weakness, and if he had not dug beds for him, he would have gone away, and the bearded man would have attacked him, and the king would have wished to stay with the hermit. So, when the king was digging the beds, it was the most precious time for the king. And the hermit was the most important man for him. and doing good to the hermit was the king's most important business. And after all this, when the injured man came to them, the most important time for the king was when he was caring for the injured man. Because if the king had not helped him, he would have died without making peace with the king. That's why the bearded man was the most important man at that time. And whatever came to him was the most important thing for him at his business. I repeat, and whatever the king did for the bearded man was his most important business. Remember then, there is only one time that is important, and that time is now. It is the most important time because it is the only time we have any power to act. The most necessary person is the person who you are with at a particular moment. For no one knows what will happen in the future and whether we will meet anyone else. The most important business is to do that person good because we were sent into this world for that purpose alone. Told the king that the most important time is the present moment because this is what we have in control, and the most important person who you are with at that particular moment, because you never know what would happen. Last, the most important business is to take good care of the person whom you are with. Sent into this world to do good to others. I hope all of you enjoyed today's session, children, and we have completed the 3 questions lesson now. I hope all of you are now thorough with the lesson. I shall give you some assignments based on this lesson. I want you to write down the characteristic of the king and the hermit. As I told you a lot about the king in the explanation part, you would know about the king now and about the hermit also. So now I want you to write down 5 lines about the character of the king and 5 lines about the character of the hermit. I hope all of you would do the same and keep it with you. When I ask for, send it as a mail to my mail ID given in your WhatsApp group. Thank you, children. Take care and stay blessed.